The first time I connected with the plant was an orchid, and this is going to be the first thing. So I had my Moog synthesizer, and I had this plant there, and I put this orchid down, and there was this music, and my mind was blown. I was like, what is this amazing thing happening right now?
That amazing thing is a whole new way to connect with nature through music, specifically plant music. These all-natural tunes are helping people all over the world go back to their roots through bio-sonification, helping them to reconnect and experience nature in a whole new way.
I'm Shane Mendonsa. I grew up in India and I moved to Canada in 2019. While I was in India, I was a composer and a producer.
Shane has also begun releasing music where he connects sensors to plants, measuring the electrical signals and producing sound.
I did this thing at the Museum of Science and Technology, this kind of event where I had, I set up this system with plants, weather and heartbeats, and I had kids come and, interact with the plants. And not just kids, but adults were woken up. I saw them all be excited and be like mind blown with the idea of just touching the plant and hearing this music come out of it.
Hearing how Shane spoke about his experience, I knew I had to give it a go. So I'm heading up to Norfolk for the day to meet with a very kind artist who agreed to lend me some kit, some plant time, and some friendly advice. Walking up the gravel path towards the studio, I'm here to meet Carol Sharp and her talented musical plants. Hello, Carol. Hello, how is it going?
Hey, good, thanks.
Carol's an artist that uses photography to capture nature, but has recently moved to music. And with some plant beats playing in the background, we get to work on setting up the kit.
So I would get the sensors, the little sticky pads, which I'm going to attach to the leaves, but I would attach the lead with the sensor onto the pads, and it clips on like so. You would do that before you put it on the leaf because you don't want to push hard on the leaf. You want to be careful with the plant. And now I'll attach one sensor to a leaf and the other sensor to another leaf on the plant. It doesn't really matter where, as long as you've got two different leaves. And then you've completed the circuit, which will allow the device to pick up the electronic signals that are going to be passing through.
After some fiddling with pads and connecting them to the leaves of a Portuguese laurel outside, I was greeted with this beautiful soundscape. Spending the greater part of the afternoon getting music from multiple plants throughout the area, I found different music coming from each one. In his own work, Shane found a similar sense of this individuality.
Each plant has its own electrical variation. Many factors determine that. One is the water content. Also depends on which part of the plant you're connected to. So, if you're connected to a leaf which is nice and green and is thick, there's a lot of water content. Where there's water, there's better electrical flow, therefore more energy.
There are so many factors that influence the sound. It can depend on if the plant is outside or inside, and even the age can mean that some music becomes very complex.
The houseplant I often take when I'm doing performances is a mother-in-law's tongue, which belonged to my mother, which is probably about 30 years old. So there would be lots of information stored in the cells of that plant, and so its response to the environment would be complex, no doubt about that.
After making some great music with one of the devices known as PlantWave, I wanted to know more, and who better to tell me about it than the founder, Joe Patitucci.
The first sensor we used was from a 1980s Radio Shack lie detector kit. People that didn't know how to do sound design also wanted to be able to experience plant music. So they're like, I don't know what a MIDI synthesizer is. I don't know what a modular synthesizer is. I just want to do yoga and listen to my plants. And that's when we started to think about PlantWave and launching that.
And from those humble beginnings, after releasing PlantWave, Joe helped get the sound of nature into homes all over the world.
I tend to really enjoy working with tropical plants because they tend to have a lot of activity, and like a monstera or a philodendron, those tend to be great. But I was invited to a cannabis farm to record an album, which you can find on Spotify. It's called 420 Hertz. That was really interesting. And I just sat there for, 45 minutes with a synth and Ableton connected via PlantWave to a cannabis plant, and an album just popped out. Like it was effortless and really cool. So I would say that I still think back to that as like one of my favorites. But yeah, I would say that the coolest one was actually a cannabis plant. It's a different way of consuming cannabis. It's non-pharma, and you can just go about your day. It's great. You can drive while listening to it. It's fine.
And moving from weed to weeds, this deepened connection to nature begs people to ask plenty more questions in how we treat our surroundings.
I think that it's the relationship between humans and plants that is continually the subject of my work, and I struggle with it daily. When you go out into your garden and you want to weed, and then you question what is a weed, and then you question why shouldn't that plant be growing in that place, and then you wonder whether there's going to be any room for me if I just let all the plants grow and there's no way of getting from my door to the car. But I think it's a balance. Like everything in life, it's a balance.